I exposed the nursing home that drugged my sister and stole $340,000. They're all in prison. Now, my sister went into a nursing home for recovery after hip surgery. 6 months later, she was drugged, confused, and her bank accounts were empty. The nursing home had stolen $340,000 from her while keeping her medicated and compliant. They thought I was just another worried elderly sister who'd accept their explanations. They forgot I spent 42 years as a registered nurse and healthcare administrator. I know exactly how nursing homes operate and how they hide abuse. I'm Dorothy Walsh, 79 years old. This is the story of how I infiltrated a corrupt nursing home, documented systematic elder abuse, exposed a multi-million-dollar theft ring, and sent 14 people to prison. My sister Helen is 82. We've been close our entire lives. After our husbands died, we became even closer, talking daily, visiting weekly, traveling together. Helen was active and independent until she fell in her kitchen in January 2022. She broke her hip badly. Surgery went well, but a doctor recommended a skilled nursing facility for rehabilitation. Helen, you need intensive physical therapy. 6 to 8 weeks in a good facility will get you back on your feet. Then you can go home. Helen was nervous. Dorothy, I don't want to go to a nursing home. I've heard horror stories. Not all facilities are bad, I told her. We'll find a good one. I'll research them thoroughly. I'd worked as a registered nurse for 23 years, then as a healthcare administrator for 19 more. I'd inspected nursing homes, reviewed Medicare compliance, investigated complaints. I knew what to look for. I researched every skilled nursing facility within 30 miles. I read inspection reports, checked violation records, visited facilities personally. I found Meadowbrook Care Center, brand new building, high ratings online, clean inspection record, professional staff. The director, Patricia Henley, seemed competent and caring during my tour. Ms. Walsh, we provide excellent rehabilitative care. Our physical therapy program is outstanding. Most patients return home within 8 weeks. The facility looked perfect. Private rooms, modern equipment, attentive staff. Monthly cost, $9,500. Helen moved into Meadowbrook in February 2022. I visited her every other day. At first, everything seemed fine. Helen's physical therapy was progressing. She was walking with a walker. Her spirits were good. The staff seemed professional. Dorothy, it's not so bad here. The therapists are great. I think I'll be home by April. But after 3 weeks, I noticed changes. Helen seemed drowsy during my visits. Confused. She'd forget our conversations, repeat questions. Helen, are you okay? You seem tired. They gave me medication for pain. Makes me sleepy. I asked the nurse about Helen's medications. She's on standard post-surgical pain management. Nothing unusual, but something felt wrong. Helen had never reacted to pain medication this way before. I requested a list of Helen's medications. The nurse was defensive. Family members don't have access to detailed medication information without power of attorney. I'm a registered nurse. I understand HIPAA, but Helen can authorize you to share her medication list with me. The nurse reluctantly agreed. Helen signed a release. 2 days later, I received the medication list. Helen was on 6 different medications: OxyContin, pain management; Xanax, anxiety; Ambien, sleep; Seroquel, antipsychotic; Ativan, sedation; Trazodone, depression. I was shocked. Helen had gone into Meadowbrook on 1 pain medication. Now she was on 6 drugs, including powerful sedatives and an antipsychotic. Helen, why are you taking Seroquel? That's an antipsychotic. You've never had psychosis. Helen looked confused. I don't know. The doctor prescribed it. They said I was agitated. Were you agitated? I don't remember. Everything is foggy now. I immediately requested a meeting with Patricia Henley, the facility director. Ms. Henley, my sister has been placed on 6 medications, including antipsychotics and heavy sedatives. She went in for hip rehabilitation. Why is she being treated like a psychiatric patient? Patricia smiled professionally. Ms. Walsh, many elderly patients experience confusion and agitation after surgery and hospitalization. It's very common. The doctor prescribed these medications to keep Helen comfortable and cooperative during therapy. Comfortable? She's barely conscious. And why an antipsychotic? Our physician determined it was medically necessary. We always prioritize patient comfort and safety. Something was very wrong, but I couldn't quite identify what. Over the next month, Helen deteriorated rapidly. She was increasingly confused. sleeping most of the day, unable to remember conversations. Her physical therapy stopped progressing. She couldn't focus during sessions. I contacted Helen's primary care physician, Dr. Robert Chen. He'd been her doctor for 15 years. Dr. Chen, I'm worried about Helen. She's on 6 medications at Meadowbrook, including antipsychotics. She's completely drugged. Dr. Chen was surprised. Dorothy, I didn't prescribe those medications. Meadowbrook has their own physician who manages patients. But that medication combination sounds excessive for simple hip rehabilitation. Can you evaluate her? Not while she's at Meadowbrook. They use their own medical staff. But if you're concerned about over-medication, you should file a complaint with the state licensing board. I decided to dig deeper. I requested Helen's complete medical records from Meadowbrook. They delayed. Records requests take 4 to 6 weeks to process. Under California law, I'm entitled to records within 15 days. They delayed again. Our medical records staff is behind. We'll get them to you as soon as possible. I knew these stall tactics. Something was being hidden. Meanwhile, I noticed Helen's bank account activity. I had been helping Helen manage her finances. She'd given me access to her accounts years ago to help pay bills. In March 2022, I saw unusual withdrawals from Helen's savings account. $4,500 to Meadowbrook Personal Care Services, $3,200 to Meadowbrook Medical Supplies, $2,800 to Meadowbrook Administrative Fees. These charges were in addition to the standard $9,500 monthly nursing home fee. I called Meadowbrook's billing office. What are these additional charges? We're already paying $9,500 per month. The billing clerk was vague. Those are additional services your sister requested. Personal care items, special medical supplies, administrative processing. What specific items? I'd have to research that. I'll call you back. She never called back. Over the next 3 months, I tracked over $47,000 in additional charges taken from Helen's account. I confronted Patricia Henley again. These charges are excessive and unexplained. I need itemized receipts for every expense. Patricia became defensive. Ms. Walsh, your sister authorized these purchases. If you have concerns, you should discuss them with Helen. Helen is drugged unconscious most of the day. She can't authorize anything. Our staff would never take advantage of patients. If you continue making accusations, we'll have to limit your visitation. That threat confirmed my suspicions. They were hiding something. I contacted an attorney, James Morrison, who specialized in elder abuse. I explained everything: the over-medication, the mysterious charges, the stonewalling. James reviewed Helen's bank statements. Dorothy, this looks like financial exploitation. Nursing homes sometimes overcharge, confuse patients, billing for services never provided. Combined with the over-medication keeping Helen compliant, this could be systematic abuse. What can we do? We need evidence. Detailed documentation, records, witness statements. Can you get Helen out of there? I'm trying, but Meadowbrook claims she's not medically stable enough to leave. They say she needs continued care. Of course they do. She's a cash source. Dorothy, you need to document everything. Every visit, every medication, every charge. Build a case. I became a detective. Every time I visited Helen, I documented her level of consciousness, her ability to communicate, which medications she'd received, which staff members were on duty, any suspicious behavior. I also started talking to other families. In the visiting room, I'd strike up conversations. How is your mother doing? Is she getting good care? Many families were satisfied, but some expressed concerns similar to mine. One daughter, Maria Gonzalez, was frustrated. My father went in for stroke rehabilitation 3 months ago. He was alert and improving. Now he's like a zombie. They have him on so many medications he doesn't recognize me. Another son, David Park, was angry. My mother's bank account has been drained. Over $60,000 in additional charges we never authorized. When I complained, they threatened to discharge her with no notice. A pattern was emerging. Multiple patients, over-medication, mysterious charges. Families threatened into silence. I organized a secret meeting with 5 families who had similar concerns. We met at a coffee shop away from Meadowbrook. I presented what I'd found. Everyone had the same story. Patient entered for rehabilitation. Initially alert, and progressing, gradually placed on multiple psychiatric medications, became confused and over-sedated. Large, unexplained charges appeared. Families were stonewalled when asking questions, threats of discharge, or limited visitation. When families complained, Maria's father had been charged $73,000 in additional services. David's mother had been charged $58,000. Another family's grandmother had been charged $91,000. We were looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars in fraudulent charges across multiple patients. We need to report this, I said, but we need solid evidence first. If we accuse them without proof, they'll destroy records and deny everything. James Morrison, the attorney, joined our meeting. You're right. We need documented evidence of the fraud and the over-medication. Here's what I recommend. File a complaint with the California Department of Public Health. They investigate nursing home abuse. Also contact Adult Protective Services, and I'll start building a civil case. We filed complaints with California Department of Public Health, Adult Protective Services, the State Medical Board regarding the doctor prescribing inappropriate medications, the California Attorney General's office. In July 2022, state inspectors showed up at Meadowbrook for a surprise inspection. Patricia Henley was furious. After the inspection, she confronted me in the hallway. You reported us to the state. You've caused enormous problems for this facility over your paranoid accusations. If you're operating properly, you have nothing to worry about. Your sister is no longer welcome here. You have 72 hours to arrange alternative placement. You're retaliating against me for filing a complaint. That's illegal. We're discharging your sister because she no longer needs skilled nursing care. This is a medical decision. I contacted James Morrison immediately. He filed an emergency restraining order preventing Meadowbrook from discharging Helen in retaliation for my complaint. The judge granted a temporary restraining order. Helen could stay while the investigation proceeded. The state inspection took 2 weeks. Investigators interviewed patients, reviewed medical records, examined billing practices. In August 2022, the California Department of Public Health issued a scathing report. Meadowbrook Care Center had violated dozens of regulations. Over-medication, 23 patients were on chemical restraints, psychiatric medications used to sedate patients rather than for legitimate psychiatric conditions. Medications were prescribed without proper psychiatric evaluation. Dosages exceeded recommended levels. Medications were continued indefinitely without review. Financial exploitation, $1.7 million in fraudulent additional charges billed to patients over 18 months. Charges for services never provided, forged patient signatures on authorization forms, employees encouraged to bill confused patients for unnecessary items, inadequate care, staff-to-patient ratios below legal minimums, untrained staff providing medical care, missing or falsified medical records, patients left in unsanitary conditions. The report recommended Meadowbrook's license be revoked, but the state investigation revealed something even darker. Investigators found that Meadowbrook was part of a network. Patricia Henley and the facility's doctor, Dr. Martin Shaw, operated 3 other nursing homes in California using the same scheme. Target patients with substantial assets, over-medicate them to keep them confused and compliant, bill fraudulent charges while patients are too drugged to notice, threaten families who complain, discharge patients before families can investigate. Across 4 facilities, they'd stolen approximately $6.4 million from elderly patients over 3 years. The California Attorney General filed criminal charges in September 2022. Patricia Henley, Facility Director, Elder Abuse, Fraud, Conspiracy, Theft. Dr. Martin Shaw, Medical Director, Prescription Fraud, Elder Abuse, Conspiracy. Karen Foster, Head Nurse, Elder Abuse, Medication Tampering, Conspiracy, plus 11 other staff members on various charges. The media exploded. Nursing home horror, $6.4 million stolen from drugged elderly patients. Families across California who'd had relatives at any of the 4 facilities came forward with similar stories. The investigation expanded. Eventually, authorities identified 127 victims who'd been systematically drugged and robbed. I was asked to testify at the criminal trial as an expert witness, not just as Helen's sister, but as a healthcare professional with 42 years of experience. Ms. Walsh, you're a registered nurse and former healthcare administrator. In your professional opinion, was the medication regimen prescribed to your sister medically appropriate? No. Helen was prescribed 6 medications, including antipsychotics, heavy sedatives, and anxiety medications. She had no psychiatric condition requiring these drugs. The medications served one purpose: to keep her confused and compliant while her accounts were drained. How did you recognize what was happening? I've worked in healthcare for 42 years. I know standard post-surgical care protocols. Helen's medication regimen was designed to sedate, not heal. When I raised concerns and was met with stonewalling and retaliation, I knew something criminal was occurring. The prosecutor presented overwhelming evidence: forged signatures on authorization forms, security footage of staff members taking jewelry and cash from confused patients, bank records showing systematic theft, medical records proving patients were deliberately oversedated, whistleblower testimony from a nurse who had been fired for questioning the medication practices. Dr. Shaw's own notes were damning. In one patient file, he'd written, "Patient 2 alert," asking questions about charges. Increase Seroquel to 400 milligrams. He was using antipsychotics as chemical weapons to silence patients. Patricia Henley's emails were even worse. In a message to Dr. Shaw, target patients with assets over $200,000. Keep them medicated enough to sign forms, but not alert enough to read them. The trial lasted 6 weeks. The jury deliberated for 2 days. Verdict: guilty on all counts. Sentencing in March 2023. Patricia Henley, 18 years in federal prison, $2.3 million restitution. Dr. Martin Shaw, 15 years in federal prison, loss of medical license, $1.8 million restitution. Karen Foster, 8 years in federal prison, loss of nursing license. 11 other staff members, various sentences ranging from 2 to 7 years. Total restitution ordered, $6.4 million to be distributed to victims. The judge's statement was powerful. This court has rarely seen such predatory, calculated abuse of vulnerable elderly persons. The defendants systematically drugged their patients, people who trusted them for care, in order to steal their life savings. They destroyed lives, demolished families, and betrayed the most fundamental duty of healthcare providers. The sentences reflect the severity and cruelty of these crimes. Helen was finally freed from Meadowbrook in August 2022. After the facility's license was revoked, I moved her to a reputable facility with legitimate care. Within 3 weeks, off the psychiatric medications, Helen was alert again, cognizant, herself. "Dorothy, where was I? Everything from the past 6 months is a fog. You were at a bad place, but you're safe now." Helen eventually recovered enough to return home. She needed ongoing physical therapy, but she regained her independence. Financially, Helen recovered $340,000 through the restitution order, every penny that had been stolen from her. But 127 other families weren't as lucky. Many victims had died before the scheme was exposed. Some had been so heavily drugged for so long that they never fully recovered cognitively. The civil lawsuit brought by James Morrison resulted in an additional $14 million judgment against the corporate owners of the 4 facilities. Insurance companies paid most of it, but the corporation itself was dissolved. I became an advocate for nursing home reform. I testified before the California State Legislature about the need for stricter oversight of psychotropic medication prescriptions in nursing homes, mandatory independent financial audits of nursing home billing, criminal background checks for all nursing home staff, stronger penalties for elder abuse, better training for families to recognize warning signs. California passed the Helen's Law in 2024, new regulations requiring monthly independent medication reviews for all nursing home patients, mandatory reporting of any patient on more than 3 psychotropic medications, criminal penalties for chemical restraint, abuse, family notification within 24 hours of any new psychiatric medication, surprise inspections of nursing home billing practices. I also started a nonprofit, elder care watchdog. We provide free resources to families evaluating nursing homes, investigate abuse complaints, and advocate for victims. Patricia Henley, Dr. Shaw, and the other defendants are all in prison now. Patricia won't be eligible for parole until 2037. She'll be 79, the same age I am now. Dr. Shaw lost everything: his medical license, his freedom, his reputation. He went from respected physician to convicted felon. Karen Foster tried to appeal, claiming she was just following orders. The appeals court rejected her claim. Nurses have an independent duty to protect patients. Following orders is not a defense for elder abuse. I'm 79 years old now. My sister Helen is 82 and living independently again. We talk every day. We visit each other weekly. We've resumed our travels, carefully but joyfully. Helen doesn't remember much from her 6 months at Meadowbrook. The medications caused gaps in her memory, but she remembers one thing. Dorothy, you saved my life. You didn't accept their lies. You fought when I couldn't. I tell her that's what sisters do. But privately, I know the truth. If I hadn't been a healthcare professional, if I hadn't recognized the signs of systematic abuse, Helen would have been drugged and robbed until her money ran out, then dumped back home confused and broken. That's what happened to dozens of other victims. Families who didn't understand healthcare, who trusted the professionals, who accepted the explanations. Patricia Henley and Dr. Shaw counted on that trust. They exploited it ruthlessly. They made one mistake. They targeted the sister of a registered nurse with 42 years of healthcare experience. I knew what legitimate care looked like. I knew what over-medication looked like. I knew what financial exploitation looked like. And I knew how to document it, report it, and prosecute it. Some people ask me, weren't you scared? They threatened you? They could have retaliated against Helen. I was terrified. Every day I worried they'd hurt Helen to punish me. But I was also angry, furious. These people were torturing elderly patients for money, and I had the knowledge and skills to stop them. The nursing home industry has a dark side. Most facilities are legitimate. Most healthcare workers are dedicated and caring. But predatory facilities exist. They target vulnerable elderly people. They drug them, rob them, warehouse them. Families need to be vigilant. Warning signs of nursing home abuse, sudden increase in medications, especially psychiatric drugs. Patient becomes unusually drowsy or confused. Unexplained charges on bank accounts. Staff defensive when you ask questions. Threats of discharge when you complain. Patient develops bed sores or injuries. Staff discourages frequent visits. Records requests are delayed or denied. If you see these signs, act immediately. Document everything. Request complete medical and financial records. Contact adult protective services. File complaints with state health departments. Consult an elder law attorney. Consider removing your loved one if possible. Don't trust reassurances from facility staff. Trust your instincts. I'm Dorothy Walsh. I'm 79 years old. A nursing home drugged my sister and stole $340,000 from her. They thought I was just another worried elderly sister who'd believe their lies. They forgot I was a registered nurse and healthcare administrator who'd spent 42 years in the system. I exposed their scheme. I documented their crimes. I testified at their trial. 14 people went to prison. 4 facilities were shut down. 127 families got justice. And California passed new laws protecting elderly patients. Patricia Henley is serving 18 years in federal prison. She's been there for 2 years now. 16 more to go. Sometimes I wonder if she remembers Helen, if she thinks about the 82-year-old woman she drugged and robbed. Probably not. To Patricia, Helen was just a number, a bank account, a revenue source. But to me, Helen is my sister, my family, my responsibility, and when someone threatened her, I destroyed them. That's what healthcare professionals do. We protect the vulnerable, even when the threat comes from other healthcare professionals, especially then. Patricia Henley spent 3 years running a criminal enterprise disguised as a nursing home. I spent 42 years learning how healthcare systems work and how to dismantle them when they're corrupt. She had 3 years of crime. I had 4 decades of expertise. The outcome was inevitable. I'm 79 years old. My sister is safe. Her abusers are in prison, and I helped change laws to protect thousands of other elderly people. That's not revenge. That's justice. And it was absolutely worth every moment of the fight. Subscribe for elder justice.